From Chicago, welcome to 3Degrees Discussions. I'm your host, Mike Vasquez. This is a podcast devoted to the stories behind the innovators, entrepreneurs, and leaders in the 3D printing industry.
We started out in our sort of part printing journey in 2019, and we've grown every year. We've made fantastic progress, and all of the time we have been then feeding back to Japan our learnings, what the industry are asking for, what's our experience running machines, what we would expect.
That was Mark Dickin. Mark is an additive manufacturing and molding engineering manager at Ricoh. Mark has a background in mechanical engineering from Wolverhampton University, and he has spent much of his career at Ricoh working with both traditional and additive manufacturing processes. Before we get started, head over to www.3degreescompany.com and subscribe to the podcast, where you can listen to the show anywhere you download your podcast, including Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or Stitcher. Hey, Mark, welcome to the show. Excited for the conversation today. We start with all our guests just to get some context on where they're from, where they grew up, and kind of what got them on the path of where they are today. So let's start there. Where'd you grow up? Kind of what was your early life of Mark looking like?
Well, thank you, Mike. Great to be here. Anyway, by the way, early life of Mark. I grew up in a place called Shrewsbury in the UK. So that is in the Midlands area. And my father, he is a mechanical engineer. Worked at GKN for many years. I think one of the longest serving members, about 40 odd years as a mechanical engineer. So that's where I sort of got my interest for engineering from, and tinkering with mechanical objects. Helping him. We had this huge big orchard at home. And I was chief lawnmower operator, so I would be cutting the grass, I'd be repairing the mower. In my childhood, it was I was in my element if I was tinkering with some mechanical object. So I think that's where my sort of passion for engineering has come from through my father's roots.
And so GKN primarily aerospace. Is that for listeners who may not know, or kind of automotive? What's their primary market?
Yeah, in the UK, it was mainly automotive. In pressings, so working with Ford, with Toyota. So there was lots of travel for him into China, the US, and Japan. And it's really quite bizarre, actually. I'm actually following his path slowly, bit by bit. I'm traveling to Japan a lot. I'm going to the US. And into Germany. So yeah, it's really bizarre how things are sort of panning out. But yeah, the GKN's main focus in the UK was around the automotive, but obviously now the aerospace and metal powders, etc. They're a huge entity.
So you liked kind of tinkering, taking things apart as you were growing up. When did you kind of decide that would be a kind of path you'd want to take on the academic side of things? You have to kind of decide that pretty early on in the UK English system?
This is where I think the education system sort of does fall down, because I think you get to 16 in the UK and you're given a choice. You can either continue on to college and university, or you go into industry. And at 16, do you really know what you really want to do? And it was a difficult time for me. I knew that I was very easily influenced, and if I went to college and university, I would go on the partying route. And I thought, no, I need to earn a little bit of money, but also learn at the same time. That was my preferred learning style. So I applied for a number of technical apprenticeships. So I could get educated, I could learn on the job. And I got offered a job actually at GKN working there, where my father was at the time. But I thought, I can't work with him, be, the manager's son. That was not a sort of a career path that I wanted. And then I got offered the role at Ricoh, and it suited me better because it was 4 days working at the factory, and then 1 day a day release at college. And then there was two sorts of routes that we could take. You could take the technical route, which was going to essentially end up as an engineer, and then there was the craft route where it was a little bit more hands-on, a bit more maintenance. See, I was lucky enough to get the grades to push me onto the technical route, and that's where I sort of started out. My career at Ricoh.
That's really interesting. I mean, is that a path that's still promoted, like even today? I mean, in the US, I think the kind of trades path kind of has been underemphasized. Maybe like it's coming back now, but I think getting that direct experience early on, whether you end up going more on the maintenance side or the engineering side, I think is just so valuable, because I think one of my core beliefs, and one of the reasons we do this podcast, is there's so many different career trajectories, things you can do in manufacturing, that it's impossible for any one person to know what that is and what even that looks like without, it's hard. You can't read it in a book. You can't maybe watch a YouTube video, but you don't get a sense until you're in the thick of it.
Absolutely, totally agree with you. There's so many different facets of manufacturing engineering that you would never know unless you're within the industry. You're immersed in it. Ricoh, traditionally, we do have a fantastic apprenticeship scheme still today, and we take on anywhere between 8 and 10 apprentices a year.
All about 16 years old, 16, 17. Is that?
Yeah, mainly 16, mainly straight from school. But we also have sometimes taken on postgraduate. So the guys who are a little bit older have got maybe a couple of years of college under their belt, and as well we can fast track those through the engineering route. But traditionally, we like to take them on straight from school. Get the raw talent, and then develop them through our engineering system. We have an engineering ladder, which you have to have certain qualifications to actually progress through the ladder. It's quite a nice structure that we have, and I think if we looked at our organisation, over half of the people in our organisation are now in management roles have gone through the apprenticeship route. So long time served. I've worked at Ricoh now 23 years, I'm in 23rd year. And it's a great place to learn, and with especially now with cost of living, if there's a company going to be paying for your degree and your qualifications and getting paid for and learning, with industry professionals at the same time, it's a fantastic place to be.
Absolutely, and I mean, especially it makes even sense for the companies too, right? Because it's the labor market is so hard right now. If you're able to build your own pipeline and take care of your people and kind of have them grow with the company, it makes it's one of those long-term type of investments on the viability of the business. Totally agree. And especially with new technologies where we're talking in the additive space where there's not so many people available, out there, and trying to recruit talent is tough. So if you can grow your own, I think you've got a valuable asset then. But then you do fall foul of that because you may grow in this person into a multi-skilled engineer who is very valuable and sought after in the market and command large a big salary, but you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So that's our approach, and that's the approach I take with my team. I want the young blood coming through. And so talk about some of those early days at Ricoh. What sorts of projects were you working on? I mean, maybe even take a 30,000 foot view of kind of what does Ricoh do in the UK, kind of what's its primary business. And I'm sure people have heard of Ricoh and think of printing, but I mean, it's a big business. So what kind of was the focus there?
I think I'll start with the sort of the helicopter view of Ricoh, and then go into the sort of the technicalities of the apprenticeship to start with. So Ricoh in the UK, where our business has changed immensely over the years. Back when I was doing my apprenticeship, we are the sole supplier for Europe for toner consumables. So toner assemblies for your office printers, and sort of large format printers where you're looking at like magazine printing and real industrial machines. That was, and toner. We used to manufacture black toner on site for the European market, and the majority of our work was sort of prescribed to us from Japan. So Japan would send us new products, we would localize new products, and then deliver them to the European market. And that was the case for many years, definitely throughout my apprenticeship. And we had the old traditional production lines where you had gangs of people standing on production lines assembling bracketries and building up photocopiers. And like I said, we've changed over the years now to sort of, we still have our core business, which is toner consumables for the European market, but we're also a business development site now, or seen as a business development site, as we have an inkjet technology centre for Europe, looking at inkjet heads, modules, print bars. We've recently developed a digital wallpaper printing machine using Ricoh tech. We have a customer experience center for our 2D printing. So, looking at garment printing, printed onto paper, printed onto all sorts of substrates, looking at 2.5D printing. Some phenomenal stuff like with foils as well. And then we have, of course, the additive manufacturing center, we have a customer experience center now there for our print business, which I will go into a bit more detail. So that's how it looks sort of today, and that work is not prescribed, which is a good place to be. So, it's an exciting place to be. Going back to circling back to the sort of first part of your question in terms of the apprenticeship. What's so good about the Ricoh apprenticeship is that we get exposure to all departments. So we have the first year is spent traveling around every single department within the company. So, going from a technical apprenticeship, I would spend time in purchasing, I'd spend time with finance, and I really understand how the company works. So you get into the fabric of the company and understand how all the departments link. And that, for me, gave me a fantastic overview of how a business operates, because these are the things you don't really learn at school. And that's why it was so valuable for us to do that. And we've recently we stopped doing that as a business, and we started to send apprentices out to college for 4 days a week, then 1 day at site. And I help support the apprenticeship program now, and we've changed it back to how it was, because I think it's far more powerful, more valuable for those young people to learn, how a business operates, how the departments interact. And that was really, for our apprenticeship, the standout thing for me was that sort of on-site, hands-on education, which you would not get, from a textbook or out of college.
Yeah, you have to practice those relationships. The only way you can see how kind of the emotional side of the business works is by being there. And so if you start to get a sense of, okay, who do I need to talk to if I need this decision made, or if I need to find out about this. And that, as especially as a young person coming out, I always tell people this, that like, it's no one's ever going to knock you for asking a question, especially if you're young, if you're an apprentice. So like, you get like carte blanche just to go up and talk to people, ask some questions, and find out about it. And it's a refreshing part of your career if you kind of take advantage of that.
Yeah, totally. And, especially when, you're straight out of school, speaking to the grown-ups, it's daunting. Yeah. It really is. And that the softer skill side, which is equally as important, as the sort of the academic skills, they're difficult to teach. You've got to go and sort of throw yourself in at the deep end, I believe, in those instances. And that that part of the apprenticeship program gave you that very, very quickly. So very, very, very worthwhile us keeping that into the program for the future.
How was your work-life balance during that time when you're kind of working and going to school and trying to figure that out?
It was tough, actually, because you can't at 16 I couldn't drive, and I lived in the sort of countryside, so I had to get a lift to a bus station, then I had to get the bus to work, doing the actual a long day, 8:15 to 5:15 was our core hours, massive change from school. And then doing the college, the day release, doing the sort of assignment work. It was tough. It really was. I'm actually going back through that now. I've just started my MSc, so it's all coming back to me, and it's like, what have I done to myself? Yeah. But I think you've got to be quite regimented with your time. And structure, and I like to work with structure, but it was manageable. We were all in the same boat, but good times.
I remember playing baseball in college. It was one of those things, like during the season in the springtime, like you're so busy, you've got games that last 5-6 hours, so you have to be diligent with your time. I was much more efficient in the springtime, and probably got better grades in the springtime, even though I was more busy during that time.
I get that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because I like to, I play football. I was an amateur boxer. I boxed at quite a high level, so I was trying to get my training in and balance work and the time. But you manage to do it. So, and it teaches you how to manage your time.
So how many fights did you do?
I had about 63. That's why I've got, this bit of bent nose going on here. So, I really enjoyed it. And then I stopped about 10 years ago, and now I do CrossFit. So I need something competitive. So, I think it's important as well to have something outside of work like that, so you can, really sort of switch your mind off and focus on something different.
For sure. Absolutely. So kind of talk me through the kind of decision that you ultimately made to stay with Ricoh as you kind of finish the apprenticeship and kind of we're in that transition time. Was there ever a doubt in your mind that you would stay there, or did you ever consider kind of going elsewhere?
I think with the apprenticeship, because the first couple of years you're moving around the department, and then we had like 3-month stints in certain departments where you would, sort of have a small project, get to know how the mechanics of the department, and then in the final year you would then sort of specialize. And because we had so much variety of work, it was always interesting. So I didn't really have any sort of inclination of leaving, but when you start your apprenticeship, you're not guaranteed a job. They're very, very clear at the outset, said, right, we will train you to a sort of higher national certificate in the day. That's what it was called in mechanical engineering. And then, that's our obligation to you. But if there's a job available or a role, yep, fantastic. But if there's not, we'll help you with your CV and help you get a job. So that was it. And luckily enough, there was a role for me, which I accepted. But there was. It was always interesting. It was, the work has always, it's not been. We've never stagnated. There's always something different, and that's what sort of kept me at Ricoh for as long as I have been there.
So when did additive manufacturing come on your radar?
Oh, additive manufacturing. So there's a bit of a story here. So when I came out, and I'll roll back a little bit. So end of my apprenticeship, there was an opportunity in our molding department, and at the time we had probably 3 or 4 injection molding machines, 1 extrusion blow molder. We were manufacturing about 10,000 parts a month for our business. So really quite small.
Like internal business, like you were like internal parts and things.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yes. So, relatively small, really, low volume. And that was, we'd manage all the tooling, the machines, the process, everything. It was like a very small startup business within a huge organization. So there was a role in that section as a process engineer. And as I said to you to start with, I used to like to make things. I like to see, something from start to finish. So it kind of really sort of met what I was looking for. So I accepted, and we really grew that area of molding into quite a huge business. So we have now 14 injection molder machines. We have 4 injection stretch blow machines and 1 extrusion blow molder. And we're producing 5 million moldings a month now. So we really did upscale over the last 10 years. And that is, again, manufacturing products for internal use, but they would be obviously assembled and then sent to our European customers. So we had massive growth, and that was, looking at tooling, really improving our game, having really high-end tool makers, looking at machinery, equipment. Our target was always to be world-class, and we really did achieve. Well, we have achieved that. So I worked my way up through the ranks. So I can't remember now. Probably maybe 10 or 12 years ago, I headed up. I was promoted. I head up the molding area, and then I would say in 2015, Ricoh sort of got involved into additive. I can remember being asked to go to. It was before Formnex. It was Euromold.
Yep. Yeah.
Back in the day, I couldn't actually make it. One of my colleagues went, but I knew there was something coming. I could tell. And then Ricoh got into additive manufacturing in 2015 when we went to market with a large format SLS printer. But I wasn't involved in additive at that stage. We were actually struggling with printability of our polypropylene. Back, I think it was 2016, and our managing director had said to me, because I had sort of done quite a lot of like design of experiments and Taguchi in molding, and he said, "Look, I need you to support a project in additive, looking at this polypropylene." So we applied. We did a DOE study, and I supported the guys. And I haven't left since. So it was, it was for my MD. Can you pop down for a day, a week or so? And then I've ended up taking over the sort of the European operation for additive, and that was in around 2016 time. So I look after now. I still retain the molding. And now additive, so we're fully immersed in the Ricoh's additive business, which again is really exciting, and we're really trying to develop that business now into something really exciting.
It's an interesting spot that Ricoh has from a market standpoint, because you already make machinery, you make millions of parts through the molding piece for internal use. So you have that manufacturing experience, and then also the materials and toners and stuff that you make. So you have like the three pieces of additive already kind of existing in the business. And so as the additive business, you have, like, you made the SLS system, like you manufactured a machine. You also have kind of this, like, is it center of excellence or kind of customer experience center where you also make parts for people. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
So the large format machine, it wasn't actually a Ricoh machine. It's badged up and sold as a Ricoh piece of equipment. And yeah, that came to market in 2016, and we stopped selling that in 2019. And really, that machine, it's a great machine, but I think Ricoh were probably a little late to the market in additive, and we were trying to play catch up. We didn't really fully understand, the machine at the time, and I think that's what led to sort of poor sales. And I think if we knew what we know now back then, we'd have made a real success of it, because it is a very, very good machine. And we use, I think I have 5 of those now as part of the print service, and they do not miss a beat. Printing polypropylene. So we stopped selling that machine in 2019, and essentially Ricoh are a hardware manufacturer, and we did decide as an organisation that we needed to do something in additive, but we're not sure what. And in the background, we had been developing a metal system. So, like I mentioned, in 2019, we stopped and we decided, right, let's start a print service. Let's stay present in the market still, so we can still learn, we can still, interact with the industry while we decide what the best move is for us from a hardware perspective. And we've learned so much. It has been a fantastic journey through the print service. We bought a HP machine, multi-jet fusion running PA12. We bought a Farsoon machine, 252, high temperature machine. And we bought that because Ricoh were developing a PBT material. So we wanted a high temperature machine. We bought a Vauxhall Jet VX 200, the high speed sintering system. And that was mainly for R&D purposes. We have a small, very small Snow White printer for that's Enrico's toy for just initial material characterization and testing. And then we have 5 Ricoh SLS machines and 1 Fortus FDM 450. So we've got quite a nice range of machines, and that's what we started out with the print service. We recruited a marketing resource, as we are all technically led. We had very, very little commercial support in all this. So it was a bunch of engineers, really, crudely speaking, running their own business. So we set up a new website, and we started out in our sort of part printing journey in 2019, and we've grown every year. We've made fantastic progress, and all of the time we have been then feeding back to Japan our learnings, what the industry are asking for, what's our experience running machines, what we would expect. So it's been a great few years. Obviously, we had COVID in the middle of it, which was unfortunate, but we still managed to grow through those times. And we are today, still growing on last year so far. So fingers crossed, we'll continue in that vein. And then probably 12 months ago, Ricoh announced that we would look to commercialize, or would develop and commercialize, a metal binder jetting system focused around initially printing aluminium. So we thought, we know it's extremely challenging, so let's start. Let's do the hard one first. So that is what we are doing from a hardware development point of view. The development is being done in Japan, but we have identified now the European market as our primary market for release, and we're currently setting up a new customer experience center in the UK, so we can invite customers to come and see our technology. We have the main metal technical team now located at Ricoh in Telford in the UK with me and my team. So we have direct sort of development on site. So it's been a fantastic, again, from a learning point of view for me and my team there. Looking at, say, initially polymers and now metals for the future.
And what learnings can you take from essentially running a service business very close to additive and kind of move that into the metal space? Is the idea to kind of sell machines and equipment, or is it more to add this as part of your service offering and kind of do like the Stratasys direct manufacturing model and have a bunch of machines that kind of just print on demand? I mean, I think I'm always interested on this, especially with binder jet, because it's not, you have the printer, but then the post processing and heat treatment is not trivial in terms of either experience or cost required, right?
Yeah, that it's still up in the air at the moment. If I'm honest, essentially we want to sell systems. Sure. In the future, or the technology in one way or another, and we are looking at late 24, 25 probably to commercialize the system. But I believe that the way to start is offering a print service. Let's get the interest in there, and we are working with quite a few customers now with the technology to help us as well develop the technology, but also get a bit of a foot in the door with the customers. And the feedback of that we were receiving is absolutely fantastic. The Japanese have done a great job so far on developing the technology. What I am looking at from April probably next year, the start of the financial year, to have some form of print service. It won't look like our polymer print service in terms of, please upload a part to our website. Sure. And we can print. I think we need to take it case by case. But yeah, I think it is the natural next step for us then. Let's sort of open it up to the industry. And see where it goes. And I think the learnings that we can take from the print service, mainly around sort of operation of equipment, is going to be key for us, because I think we could develop a really, really good, robust, needs to be automated system, for our potential customers. We see firsthand the problems that we have in terms of, it is especially the powder-based process, a lot. There is a lot of manual intervention. We need to get away from that. We need a connected system, a connected manufacturing system. So that's what we will be targeting.
And what applications? So for potential customers out there who are intrigued by binder jet or even the technology as a whole, what's the sweet spot? Kind of what are the use cases where that's a no-brainer in terms of a part, or is it part size, production volume? Where should people's heads be at in terms of making binder jet a part of their decision-making process?
Yeah, good question. I think that's what we're looking at the moment. Is we are targeting heat sinks or heat exchanger type parts, because we are able to print very, very fine detail from our aluminium parts. We've also developed a method of removing powder from really, really complex geometry, which, again, is part of, one of the sort of the pitfalls of the process. You have to get that powder out. Yeah. And we have developed a system that is totally automated and works very, very well. So initially, we are looking at heat exchangers, as we have the material we're focused on is an aluminium silicon, but we're also developing an aluminium silicon magnesium for more structural applications. So we are starting to look at other applications, more structural, as the next step. But initially, that is our sort of area of focus in terms of heat exchangers and sort of thermal transfer. That's so, yeah.
For sure. In addition to you've got the polymers business, you've got this binder jet kind of bubbling to the top. I see Enrico posting all the time about all your work with impossible objects and carbon composites. So that's in the portfolio as well in terms of close partnerships.
Yeah. Now, this again, I think this is a really exciting area of our print service. So we've formed a collaboration, a partnership with Impossible Objects, where we are essentially a sales front for them in the European market for components. And as you know, the parts that the guys at Impossible Objects are producing are absolutely phenomenal in terms of quality and overall strength. And what initially surprised me was the low cost parts to manufacture in peak material. So we are, again, taking on a bit of a business development role. It's another one of the hats that we wear in terms of we're trying to develop the business in Europe for 3D printed powder-based composites. We've just released a white paper, actually. That was a good, in combination with Impossible Objects, looking at their technology, use cases. And I see lots and lots of synergies between Ricoh and Impossible Objects, with inkjet heads, inks, materials, machinery, like vision, etc. And yeah, we're working very, very closely with the guys at Impossible Objects to develop that area of the business, which is, again, really, really exciting. We'll be displaying a lot of their parts at Formnext. But again, it's where we struggle is talking when we talk to the industry in terms of educating people about what's possible. And I think we see a lot of the posts, as you've mentioned, from Enrico, and that's what he's doing. He's just trying to create awareness. And I think that is what we're doing. And then hopefully when you'll get wider adoption of the technology. But it's in my strategy for Ricoh to bring an Impossible Object C-band machine over to the UK. I just need to build up enough of a business to justify that investment. But it's firmly in my sights to do so.
This sounds awesome in terms of all the cool stuff you get to do on a day-to-day basis. You get some engineering, you're starting a business, you're starting building machines, there's all this material stuff. So it's sounds like a great place to work.
Yeah, it's really diverse. And there's one area that I've not touched on is Ricoh are also, we're looking at dental printing as well. Using, again, inkjet, which is our technology, our heads, Ricoh developed materials, looking at a disruptive model for printing teeth. And we are looking at setting up an area, again, in the UK to supply the European market. Initially looking at resin, polymer-based teeth, but then also looking at sort of ceramics in the future. So again, that's another area of development that Ricoh are working on, which would be extremely exciting for us. But it's very early days there.
Yeah, certainly a lot of stuff to keep you busy. in your 8 hour
Yeah,
day.
absolutely. Yeah, really diverse, really diverse. And then we've got a new molding project at the moment. So we are. Again, we're achieving a lot from a very, very small team.
That's awesome. So just a couple of kind of more fun questions, I suppose, to wrap things up. So the first one is, for those who are kind of either more early in their career and maybe exploring additive, maybe even looking to think about moving into the space. What piece of advice would you give someone that is trying to either learn more about the industry or trying to get kind of an initial foothold?
I would say there are mountains and mountains of resource out there. Lots of trade media, trade press, podcasts, as we're here to listen to really educate. But I also believe that getting out to the shows, we've got Formnext coming up, and then you got the regional shows. I think, we were counting. You could probably go to a show every week of the year. There's that many.
There is.
It really is.
It's crazy.
It's madness. So, and it's moving so fast, the industry with developments and M&As and all sorts. So I would say, just immerse yourself, do plenty of reading, but also we need to be realistic in terms of when to use additive. We are from the sort of era of traditional manufacturing, and if you can manufacture it traditionally at a cheaper cost, let's do so. I believe it's a complementary technology to, say, injection molding. I have a very balanced view of both technologies. So I think, fantastic. It is. There's so much hype around it, but let's take a balanced view of it.
For sure. So last question, again, more of a fun one. What's a favorite book or a book you'd like to kind of go back to and reference as something that you've taken a lot away from? I'm trying to compile a list of all the books that we have as favorite books from our guests as a kind of thing we'll post up on the website at some point.
Ooh, that's quite a tricky one. I might be being quite sad here, Mike. I am currently reading a book called Drink Tea and Read the Paper. Okay. And this is a book. It's a really, really frank, to the point book about statistical process control and how to apply it to your business. I'm reading it at the moment because looking at like Six Sigma approaches and how we can apply that to our additive area for serial mass production. So I would say it's a no nonsense approach to the subject. I would encourage people to have a read of that as well.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining the show today. Look forward to seeing you out in Formnext in a few weeks. And good luck with all the stuff that you got going on.
Yeah, thank you.